Mr. Clapper was pretty thorough. I think the only thing he neglected to say is that I think the students have been pretty tolerant as well with everything that's going on there. So, probably some credit to them as well for living through this. Okay, so unfortunately, except up till today, we haven't really gotten much new information on our, that will assist us in this budget process. The state, as you all know, hasn't come through with any changes in state aid yet. But we did learn something today that I think you heard a little bit about earlier. Again, just to review a couple items. The governor's budget provided us about $890,000 outside of expense-based aids. And as I pointed out at the last meeting, more than half of that may have strings attached, and we still don't know that either. We suspect we won't know that until they settle the budget. So if that happens, then that $500,000 could have expense attached to it, which we'll have to deal with by adding more revenues or other. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we have quantified our new building aid and quantified debt service. Mr. Shaughnessy asked asked to send you all out, I think it was put into your library, the actual tax levy limit calculation that we do on the state's website. So this is the calculation. I know that you've seen it, and you couldn't read this anyway, even if you hadn't. But the only thing I want to point out about this is that the tax levy is what falls out of this, and then the 1.35% happens to be the percentage that equates to. So it's not that this calculation results in the 1.35%, and then you figure out what your tax levy limit is. The tax levy limit comes out of here. That happens to equate to the 1.35% that we've discussed here. And so the limit, again, is right over there. This was a document that you'd seen before. It has changed slightly, but then again, as we mentioned earlier, it changed again at about 5:15 today, is when we were informed that our largest healthcare plan, the one that serves the teachers, is going to increase by several percent more than our wildest imagination allowed us to think. And that will, oops, that's this one. One of these is a light, right? Is that it? Oh, okay. So this $613,000, which is approximately the number we discussed last time. I think last time it was a little bit higher, about 630. So it's down to 613, but today we learned that with the increase to the healthcare plan for the KPF membership, that $613 number will have to have added to it almost $500,000 to accommodate this higher increase for that plan. So, which is to say that instead of being $613,000 short of a balanced budget, given the parameters that we have here, we're about $1.1 million short of a balanced budget. So obviously what that means is that there's probably less likelihood that the state is going to come through with that amount of money to help us balance our budget. I mean, we really don't know yet. But we just got further away from a balanced budget, unfortunately. So where we left off, we were at showing about 1.96 and needed to get down to 135, needed to find that 613. Now we need to find $1.1 million to balance the budget. And this number actually is about 2.4 where we're sitting at the moment. On the expense side, this slide is really unchanged from last time, except that now we know that our largest policy will rise in excess of 11%. It's going to rise by 14.4%. So our overall forecast for health insurance, instead of being up about $3.5 million, it looks like it's going to be up about 4.0 or $4.1 million. So it's a pretty sizable increase. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that health insurance eats up about 21% of the budget of this district. More than 1 out of every $5 we spend is spent on health insurance, either for active employees or retirees. So quite a sum, and obviously an issue in the country. This is another document that you've got in your library. I'm sorry it's hard to make it bigger for you here, but you have it perhaps in front of you, or you have access to it. So this is actually, there's another document that I didn't put in here because the print was so small it was silly for me to put it in the slide projection. That's the. Sorry.
Can you use a bigger font?
Highlight.
We're still learning how to do that. Yes, yeah, we'll use a bigger font. Dr. Catalano will tell you I like really small print.
Not like a C.
Use as many numbers as possible on one sheet of paper. So, in any case, what this is attempting to do, separate from the sheet that I didn't put up here, is giving some sense to you of why some of these changes are happening. So for some examples, our debt service is up, and we've talked about our debt service. Obviously, that has everything to do with the new building. The increase in health insurance is market, and obviously we've discussed health insurance. And you were able to see in the document that you had, I guess for a few days at least, what some of the things that are going on here. Most of the, obviously these increases are some are modest and some are less than modest, but hopefully in some we are going to create a budget that balances for the district. How we do that remains to be seen somewhat, but we will get there. So the rollover budget today, again, the tax levy of 1.96 is now obsolete. That number is 2.42. We need to get down to 135 if we want to stay within our tax levy limit, which requires, of course, the 50% vote that you're all familiar with, and allows the district then to be able to get tax refunds for all the taxpayers. So again, the second line is also obsolete. Instead of $613,000, we now need $1.1 million to balance this budget. The 21% I mentioned moments ago. So again, possibilities that Albany, the legislature in its negotiations with the governor, find some more aid for us. We think that there will be more aid, but whether that will come close to 1.1 million, we have no way of knowing, I think, at the moment. We could apply more fund balance to the budget. I brought that up last time as well. We've been doing 1 million the last few years. We could go beyond that. Obviously, there are reasons why we'd rather not do that, but we have the means to do it, so it could be done. Or we could find other efficiencies, which we've been looking for, and we'll continue to. So, in any case, I wish that we had more new news, and the only new news is not really good news today, but we're planning on having a couple of budget forums. I don't know that, have they been announced yet? No, okay. So we're planning on one, I think the last week in March, and then another one first week in April, I think. It's the dates we discussed. So you'll hear more about that very soon, I suspect. One of those, I think, will be here, the other one at Point of Praise. So we look forward to having more information. Obviously, the first one in April, the budget, the state budget, I think, is due on March 31st or April 1st. Is that right? So hopefully on that one in the first week of April, we'll know where we are quite accurately. And if we're lucky, the last week of March, we'll have more information than we do today. We're still waiting on some health insurance numbers from a couple of our other plans, and we have, taken some, we hope, good guesses about how much they might change. And when we hear those, hopefully they won't hurt us, but we'll see about that. So that's it. Any questions?
There's been so much discussion politically about the foundation aid that we never got. Is there any hope that we can ever recoup what we're owed? Or is that dead?
Well, the amount of foundation aid that we never got is such a large number that I can't imagine we'll ever get it all. That number is.
Well, that number is $93 million.
Did we get 1.1?
Yeah, just give us 1% of it. That's enough.
I mean,
Yeah, it's an enormous number, and obviously if you multiply that times every district in the state, I think the state total is, wasn't it 1.8 billion, or it's a huge number.
I know, but I mean, would it be helpful for residents to help kind of try to get at least a part, a little bit, teeny bit of that foundation aid that's...
Well, in fact, Dr. Carolino's involved in an effort to do just that.
Well, we're involved in several different efforts to do this stuff, but I mean, it's not, that $93 million, we're not getting it back. It's not happening. It's actually more than the 93, because we also have the gap elimination adjustment money that was taken, that was part of, that increased that number. But really, what we're pushing for is exactly what you're calling foundation aid, which isn't, the foundation formula doesn't exist anymore. The governor's decided there is no foundation formula, and he decided he would create his own formula for funding. So, really what we're pushing for is a foundation formula that is equitable and fair and predictable for school districts. And that's really been our effort to this point.
Can our citizenry help in that effort?
Absolutely. I
And
think,
what can they do?
We've been, our local representatives are people to talk to, and we encourage people to go see them. Senator Amador, Senator McCahill, go see them. Tell them your concerns about funding for schools. Call them, write them, do all those things. There's real concern over the way the school is funding, being funded, especially this year. And I think the need for the foundation aid formula is we wouldn't be having these type of conversations if we had a formula that we knew that was predictable. We could budget around that number instead of just waiting for April 1st to guess at what we can and can't do.
So if people did contact Mr. Cahill, Mr. Amador, is there a message that they, in terms of just a fair foundation aid formula, would that be helpful?
Absolutely. They know exactly what that means.
Right. Because I think that people are willing to contact their representatives, but we need to know what we're asking for so that we can magnify that message.
So, Stuart was talking about asking for 1.1 million. I'm just looking at the first line on the budget draft expense drivers sheet with the Board of Ed dollar change up 10%. That was $9,000 from board docs. I know that $9,000 is a little drop in the bucket, but maybe we should have a discussion whether, whether that's worth its value.
That's just to, we can have that discussion when we do, but that's actually about 64% less than that, right? Because we get BOCES 8 on that, so it's not really 9,000, we're 30, I don't know, Mr. Nelson probably did a percentage of the stuff, but,
$3,000 or $4,000.
yeah, $3,000 or $4,000 so it's actually, less than half of that 9,000 for board docs.
And a few years ago, we did an analysis of what it costs to print things up in Courier.
Right, that was ridiculous, but we doing all paper, but, okay, it's less, but I don't find this much more user-friendly than the former online system, but I know I speak from a different perspective because
Yeah, I think that there's,
literate.
I mean, when you're the person who receives the packet full of paper, you don't realize that there's a person who spends 2 days putting that packet.
Oh, I don't want paper. I don't want paper, I'm just saying. It's my children's forest that we're cutting. I mean, it's fine, we can have a discussion. We brought it up a few times, the board docs is worth the money, and then just seeing it now in front of me, so I would raise the point, but.
Camille?
It's worth the money.
Okay.
As a person who has to get that together. Mr. Shaughnessy, then Mr. Michael.
One of the issues that I see in petitioning the legislature is that it really has to be done a lot earlier in the cycle. Having a rally on March 4th is a big turnout, but that's really not going to change the budget. It's already closed. We just don't know. We don't know what it is. I mean, they start planning that almost immediately after the one budget is done. So you really have to address the legislatures, the legislators in the autumn, because that's when all of the numbers and increases and whatever are being put together. At least that's my opinion. It may not be valid, but that's the way I look at it.
And I do believe it's valid. The legislators even told us that when they were lobbying, that, we should really start in October, not wait until the winter to do it. We should start right after the previous year's budget is set, and in anticipation, probably.
But the Ulster County School Boards Association has a legislative action committee that does a lot of this work, and they do advocate for funding. But I understand that we should be starting earlier, but in my mind, conversations that we have with legislators now don't necessarily have to apply for this coming year. I mean, we can be talking about years to come. So I think it's never a bad idea to contact your legislators, and even if that doesn't mean we're going to get our 1.1, could mean that that it actually gives more time to think about a fair, or they've had years, decades, to think about a fair funding formula for schools in the coming year.
Well, I think you could say most people would argue that the foundation formula that was put in place was a reasonably, there's no perfect solution for it, was a reasonably, put together solution for districts, but it would stop running was the issue. They stopped running the foundation, but they froze it, so they created this formula that did kind of a lot of the things that we wanted to happen, looked at poverty, looked at, equitable distribution of money, and then they just stopped running it. So that made the whole process of creating the formula didn't really make any sense. So a formula that was conceived, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something along those lines is what we're looking for. And I do think, while I agree with Jim that the majority of the budget is cooked right now, there is still, at least from what we believe, there's still a pot of, some hundreds of millions of dollars kind of floating out there unassigned that we can still hopefully get some influence as to where it goes, and hopefully it gets into schools.
Well, and I also think because our taxpayers are focused on this now, because now we're talking about our budget, and now as the energy is going toward that and looking at it, I agree that it might not impact immediately, but these conversations still have to happen, and sometimes you have to be a little angry to be motivated to go and speak to people, and that's not a bad thing, because it's the truth. And I think that there's some value in our constituents in our school district, our parents, our taxpayers who are no longer, have children in the schools, to still have that input and have our representatives know that we are angry about this, and that, maybe they can't give us the money they owe us, the $93 million, but it sure would be nice to loosen up a couple million to take the burden off the local community. So I'm for yelling now and yelling later.
And I think there's also been a little bit of a cultural shift in recent months of forming a little bit more of a resistance and people becoming more engaged in politics and in their communities. So if we could use that power for, and that's why we're good. That's why the rally, I think, occurred now and not in October, because the circumstances for public education have been drastically altered. So it's running with the resistance, anger, and passion. Passion.
AQE has been doing a lot of work in that area too, to keep it in front of the legislatures and to say, yeah, you gotta give the districts their money that they should be getting. So there is things going on too.
Well, I want to add something about the budget that I had the other day that Governor Conway put in the new budget, about $8 billion to be spent a nuclear plant for the next 10 years, and we're gonna be shutting down. So it's $8 billion investment and money, you know, to be wasted. So that's why we cannot get our $93 million. So that's all money, big waste, nothing else. Mr. Olson was about the Board of Education budget.
Yeah,
Could you clarify the 91,000?
clarify.
Where's the money? Yeah, where's the money go? We're not spending
Uh,
90,000.
Yeah, I think part of the question, I think the largest part of the Board of Education budget is sitting right over there.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
So I'd like to just add, to Mr. Shaughnessy's point, maybe starting earlier could include lobbying the governor, so you can actually have an influence on the governor's budget before you have to then deal with the legislature. Secondly, thanks to Mrs. Wood for her work on all this. And third, thanks to Ms. Jordan for some cough drops, I think. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Olson.